Okay, good morning, everybody. Jim will not be able to attend today, so I get to step up a little bit. So we need to call the roll.
So Chair Kalp is absent today. So Chair Jacobson?
Present.
Members Brocksterman?
Here.
Lloyd?
Here.
Martin?
Present.
And Cert. Okay, so we have 4 present, 2 absent. All right, the next item on the agenda are the minutes from the last meeting, so that would be
Yes.
May 21.
Yes. I met with Mr. Kaup yesterday, and he asked for a couple of edits to the minutes, if I may.
Okay.
On page 2, first paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. It says the city of Topeka and the lack of accountability of political intrusion in personnel and or administration matters. And he would like to insert the words by council members.
After matters.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
difficult position it puts the city manager in, and so on and so
Okay.
forth. And then at the bottom, the last line of that paragraph, it says, City of Topeka, this issue created a difficult work environment and a culture of, and instead of tolerance, he would like the words intrusion by council members substituted in there. And that's all I have for Mr. Cal.
Is that agreeable by the committee?
I don't object.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay. Would somebody like to move to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
All right, motion carries.
So, public comment? We don't have anybody here.
No comments and no emails received.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the work section. There's a memorandum from Jim that everybody should have a copy of here in regards to the testimony we heard last meeting from Mr. Feander in regards to behavior of the governing body, council members, and staff with the city. And so he's authored a memorandum in regards to code provisions. We had a discussion yesterday, and he looked at Olathe, Lenexa, Emporia, and KC, and compared it to sections of the code here, and he found, if you look at the Topeka comments, wording as far as council inquiries into city staff, and then on the next page are general penalties for that. But he looked at the city of Topeka. He's got governing policies and procedures, and then he's got Olathe included. There's a code of ethics included in here, and he found terminology in the city of Olathe's code of ethics that he thought would make a model or template for our committee to make suggestions for the governing body to consider. Yes, in that regard. Then he's got a recommendation to the committee in regards to enforcement and authority there. And he's got a summary of Olathe, Lenexa, KC, Emporia, in what's in their ordinances. So, what all do you think about the comments from Mr. Feander last meeting?
I think it was a valid concern. It was a catch, like, generally, he just saw himself where there could be room. However, we actually do have something in place, and it may not be as stringent as we
other
wanted.
cities, yeah.
Actually, it's a little bit more, because based upon what I read,
It's a
pretty
lot
much,
more,
it's
yeah.
a lot more than everybody else has. So why would we reinvent the wheel? We actually have something in place. We
According
have-
to-
Yes, we have it. A misdemeanor with a fine and/or
Oh, I saw
imprisonment,
that.
you can't get more stringent than that.
Yeah.
Like, we have it in place. Now, I don't know who would be the one to facilitate and enforce this, but we do have it, and we have more than what others have. So what do you all think?
I agree with you. It seems like you said, we are more stringent than other communities. That is a good question for council. How would this be enforced?
I know that you've gotten a response into.
I'm sorry, which portion were you
The
talking
portion
about?
for Topeka says, well, the section does not have penalty provision. There is a general penalty provision in the city code that possibly applies.
Yes.
It's on the first page of at the
Yeah,
bottom of the
okay.
memorandum. And
I
then,
need a second to look at the provision.
absolutely.
That he cited to make sure I'm tracking.
Sure.
Yeah,
What he's referring to. And I apologize for the late notice. I also circulated a memo yesterday through
Yes.
the city
Yeah,
clerk.
Yeah, I got that.
And we do have, a pretty clearly defined structure, when you start reading the charter ordinance where it talks about the duties. I mean, I highlighted the same provision that Jim highlighted, that it strictly says that the governing body essentially can't interfere with staff who report directly to the city manager. Legal's opinion is that the enforcement of that comes down to the mayor and the city manager primarily,
Okay.
setting the boundaries.
Yeah.
Probably the most common boundary that we see said is the city manager may ask that questions be referred to his office to then be sent out to staff. That way you have that layer of insulation. Or he might ask to be included in certain conversations or on certain emails. He's got the ability to pull individual governing body members aside and have a conversation, remind them of what the structure should be. He's got the ability to talk to the mayor and express, a belief that needs to be done, and to see if the mayor will do it. When it gets to the mayor's level, we do have the ability for the governing body to contemplate censure of an individual member. And then I outlined a couple of legal procedures. You can have a mandamus action where you go through the district attorney and ask him to essentially bring a court action requiring them to follow their legal duties. There's the ouster, which is the more extreme example of that, where the district attorney can pursue a removal from office under certain categories. Usually it's related to criminal activity, crimes of dishonesty or incompetence. And then the people themselves always have the ability to bring a recall petition.
good.
So God, that is a lot. We got it. We just,
Yeah.
I think it
Maybe
kind of
it's not
jumped
as
the.
clear as it-
We jumped the gun because we didn't have the full picture. Sometimes you create a problem when there is one. You see
Yeah.
one piece of information, and so we thought, oh my gosh, they're rogue, they can do whatever, but actually there is, and it's a lot, actually.
Absolutely.
So I am satisfied,
Okay.
but that's just me.
Okay. In the testimony last week, the impression I got was it was the council member, it was, what's the word, what I'm looking for? It was happening often enough, but I don't know, beyond the influence or the suggestion of influence, what happened after that. Am I making sense for you all? And I think because someone took the time and trouble to come to us and publicly say, this has happened, this is a concern, we need to acknowledge that.
I agree, and
And
I
I don't
think
know if it's-
definitely it acknowledged it, but with the research that Jim did and then
We
also
addressed
Mary
it.
did,
Okay.
I mean,
I think we've
covered it.
identified
Yes.
that it is, there's
Okay.
already something in place to
Okay.
take care of
Yes.
that.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Now-
we acknowledge
Okay.
that,
Yeah,
and we.
Does there need to be something that is tracking for that, that if anything is brought up, that
Yeah, follow
that is
through.
that is followed up with, and that somebody sees if it's actual
Okay.
or not.
In our conversation, because Jim gave me some items to bring up today, his concern is that it's happening often enough where the manager is sidestepped often enough that it creates an unpleasant atmosphere. And his concern is it leads to too frequent turnover in the manager position here with us in Topeka. And is that a concern? Is that something that we want to look at?
In my opinion, maybe it's the opposite of that, like, the turnover in the manager's office is where the disconnect is happening. That maybe the incoming manager doesn't know that he needs to make that apparent to council, maybe?
Okay.
What do you think?
I think, kind of like when you're on a job and then stuff happens and you get pulled into the office. And Sally Sue, there's an allegation that Sally Sue did this. So they do their investigation, but we never know. They won't disclose what Sally Sue, what Tom, Dick, and Harry, what,
No.
so you won't know. And it could be the appearance that nothing's happening. But they have like a pretty stringent thing, and so just because we don't know, I would caution us to not think it's not happening.
Okay.
I'm sure it's happening because people, and it's going to be issues, but we won't know what has been done. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's a private personnel
yes,
issue.
I think
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I think there's a lot of that probably going on. Like, I don't know, but I'm just saying in that area, we won't know.
That is correct.
We will not, and we shouldn't. And if we do, then that's a problem.
Correct, yeah, that's a different discussion.
Yes.
Good morning, Zach. We're talking about the testimony we heard from Mr. Viander last meeting.
Yep.
And what the committee needs to, what should, could, would, what's our response?
Yeah.
If any,
Yep, and I got the chance to,
and your thoughts.
yep. I got the chance to read the memo that was sent out and understood most of it, which kind of answered my questions that I had from last time, was that there is a balance of power, but because they are elected officials, and how do you audit your boss and things like that, that it sounds like that if a staff member had a reasonable concern about undue influence from any elected official on them, there are ways through
There's
both the
channels.
justice
Yeah.
system and the internal
Yes.
HR systems.
To
Everything from a
address it.
gentle reminder to, we could censure you from the
Yeah.
city council, which I guess I didn't even think about as an action last time, but the one thing that stood out to me was that Wichita has the ethics commission.
Yeah, that can
And-
investigate.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know if Topeka needs an ethics commission, but it also could be an idea that we could throw out, that if you want the public to feel more at ease with this, or maybe it helps some staff members feel more at ease that there's a commission out there, a separate independent body. I think we talked about that a little bit last time, an independent body to review some of those things. I know that before the police had their own commission, that the HRC used to handle some of those complaints through their systems, so it would kind of operate like that, I assume. I didn't read all the other cities' ordinances and the charter, but I don't know. I'm more comfortable with it now, knowing that there are written down.
Yes.
There's
Like
stuff
if-
There's lots.
Yeah.
Yes.
that
And
if-
it's
if the
more
gentle
stringent than
reminder-
everyone,
Yeah.
basically.
That
So
if
I
the
think-
gentle reminder doesn't work, then the city manager or the mayor can take things to the attorney's office, not our attorney's office, but the district attorney's office
Right.
for legal
Follow them.
action or,
Further.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So, because I heard his testimony, I'm like, wow.
That's what
It was a wow moment for me.
We got a problem.
Yes, and the more I thought about it personally, I was like, we need to talk about it, because you can't unring that bell
Yeah.
and decide what to do. So, as a committee, what would you like to do? Jim has written up a memo recommendation for the committee, and what he wants the committee to state, to make recommendations for an enforcement mechanism. I don't know why I'm reading this to you, but it's the second page in his memo. Make an amendment that makes a clear consequence, censure, and then request for resignation, and then ouster would be the course of events.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing anything in the recommendations that we don't already have in place.
That's what
Okay.
we have that. We have that.
So I recommend that we don't do anything more with this, other than possibly having a one-page refresher sent out to city council and staff of what's currently available and what the process currently is.
That would be good.
I guess my question for, I don't know if, Mary, this might be a question for you. I think we asked it last time. Do city council members sign a code of ethics when they take out? They do
Yes.
sign. Okay.
They
sign an
oath of office.
Yeah.
They do not sign a code. I asked
Right.
Spencer.
Okay.
Right.
Spencer said no. You sign the
So-
oath, but that's it.
So I wonder if maybe it wouldn't be an idea to throw out that when they take office, they also sign a code of ethics. That it's already listed out, right? There is a code of ethics that they are refreshed on when they become members, and I don't know how often afterwards, but if they just have to sign that they understand the code of
Yeah.
ethics, that way you've got a signature, and if there's a violation of those ethics, then you can pull it up, say you signed this, you're in violation of the code of ethics that you signed on. It might make a potential case stronger with either the city manager's office or the DA's office or the
That
attorney
would be
general's
great.
office.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Kind of like at work, we sign, and they go down the chain of discipline, you got to sign everything, and they refer back to your initial signature.
Like an employee handbook, you
Like
sign
an employee-
receipt of a
That
handbook
would be
and
good
it's
to
all in there.
add to whatever it is they all get when they begin,
Okay,
that would be
You know,
good.
they have the governing body rules of procedure, so do they sign this, or they just have access to it?
No, Brenda, they don't.
So it is taken to the full body at a meeting, and an official vote is taken on it. So it's approved by each current body. So yes, I think
Okay.
the last time it's been amended was maybe a year and a half ago, something like, I think the date's at the bottom of that.
December of
21.
2021.
Okay, so 4 years ago. But
So they do take a look
Yes.
at it.
The current body
each.
that's there, the 10
Yeah.
members that are there, and they have to vote on any amendments or approvals.
Okay.
Okay.
But it stands so if, it could go 10 years
Oh,
without
it
change
could.
too.
Yes,
So-
absolutely.
So then that's not something that you can't hold anybody's feet to the fire with that, because a new member could be
They're-
elected this year and next
Right,
year.
right.
They understand it, but they
Yeah.
haven't signed that they understand it.
And I will tell you that rarely are those amended. It takes something like, in 21, we had the pandemic, so we had to amend them for virtual meetings. Things like
Okay,
that.
Things like
But
that.
typically, those are not amended very often because we also revert back to the Robert's Rules of Order, so.
Right.
I guess I want to clarify that kind of like the bylaws for the HRC, that may not be amended during every member's tenure, but by virtue of being a member of that body,
You're
it,
agreeing.
You're upheld to those standards.
it applies. So while it may not have been voted on since 2021, the expectation is still that
Every
it
member-
applies to everyone who's
Kind of like a qualification for office. If you
Sure.
are elected, these are your rules.
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Would it affect anything if they were to sign it? Like if, let's say somebody did violate a code of ethics or the rules and had undue influence on a staff member, and we took it to the, I don't know if mine's even close enough, but if we took it to the DA's office, the Attorney General, would they take issue with, like, well, they didn't sign anything saying they understood it? I mean, any kind of loopholes like that?
Off the top of my head, I don't think it hurts anything to have them sign it, but I don't know that it really adds any teeth.
Any
because,
weight to it.
Right, because again, it's the rules for the body, and by virtue of being a member,
Right.
you're expected to know them and comply with them.
I
Say
assume
it
that
falls
they're-
under the ignorance of the law, isn't a
Sure.
It
justification.
would not
Sure.
apply for them. Okay, gotcha.
But they're presented at least with this stuff as all new members are, right? Here's your code of ethics, here's your rules and procedures.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
No matter when it was updated, this is what we're following.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess if any new member has a problem with it, they can propose changes, but they have to follow with whatever's there. So I guess it really doesn't, not to say it doesn't matter, but we could make them, or recommend that they sign it for each new member appointed or elected. But I guess it doesn't really change the fact that
Doesn't
the
change
process is
anything.
already in
Right.
place.
Okay. So, as a committee, I mean, what is our statement or our suggestion with this? It's come to our attention, this behavior's happened, and the committee urges the governing body to review, reassess, address.
I think it's up to us to say if we, I think it would be good to at least put it in the report, say we had discussions about this.
Yeah.
It may need a refresher, or we could say, we would recommend that all newly elected or appointed officials sign the code of ethics and the rules and procedures as they stand at that time to,
That might be a good recommendation.
I'm
just
putting
to
together
have them
language in my
review
head,
it,
but
just to review it, not necessarily that we want them to do anything to
'cause I think
update or
that
amend
if,
anything.
right, if just an average citizen that may not know the details of what happens when you get elected to city council has an issue with a city council person or
Are these,
undue influence, and they're like, well, don't you have a code of ethics? And, until it goes to an actual attorney's office, they could say, well, I didn't sign ethics,
Yeah. I didn't know anything of
about
it.
it, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, how about, of course, we're gonna acknowledge him, because that was like, we can't unring the bell. So
Yeah.
to acknowledge it, even put some teeth to the concerns, but to say that we found there is a system, so we would like to suggest for accountability and
Yeah.
transparency,
Yeah.
for the community, if we could have you all sign this when you take office. I mean, that's like, it's putting the onus on, like, we know that you guys have something, but for the sake of transparency, for the sake of accountability, because that's our problem. We don't know how are you going to be held accountable to this. So for accountability and transparency, we recommend that there's some form that you sign off that you understand, acknowledge what is already in place.
And what your lane is and to stay in it type of.
Because this
Okay.
is general, this is
Yeah.
for all, I mean, this is all their lane. This is a general
Yeah.
code of conduct.
Yeah.
We want you all to be held to the standard of the
aware
code
of
of
it,
conduct
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
already in place, which dispels the concern, which will not dispel, but will deal with the concerns that the community has about this issue. Kind of like, there's an issue, but here's the answer, you know, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Do you want to write that up for us?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds,
guess-
you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
agree.
One last thing, because I was
Yes,
just
sir.
reading Jim's recommendation,
Yes.
and it's pointed out that we should adjust the rules and procedures document. Is there anywhere listed in either the ethics or the rules and procedures, like if you violate, then, you know, it can be taken to the Attorney General or DA's office, or you could be censured from, I mean, is there any document that says if you violate, this is what could happen? Like a
Isn't that
non-exhaustive
one-
list of.
I can double check. When I reviewed what we had, there's not necessarily a sentence anywhere that says
Just the
that
state
these are the
laws.
consequences. And part of that, I think, stems from the fact that a lot of it is rooted in state law.
Yeah,
But I'd be happy to confirm that,
okay. Yeah, if you could
yeah,
just, yes or no, there is stuff in there about it.
yeah.
I think it wouldn't be the worst case to recommend that the language have a non-exhaustive list of if you're found to violate the Code of Ethics of the Topeka City Council.
Like,
It
yeah,
could be,
there's an-
there could be disciplinary up to and including censure and, you know, legal action.
But they have that. You can't we can't list everything verbatim.
Right, that's
You
just-
can't
just
list
a
it, but they have
non-exhaustive
that. They
list.
have 10.07, the general penalty. There's a general penalty provision in the city code that applies to this. That penalty provision makes any code violation a misdemeanor with a fine and/or imprisonment. So unless we're going to get to going down the line, if you do this, I mean, I don't.
this is in the municipal code, the charter.
So that's what I'm.
That's where this penalty lies. The rules of procedure are something different.
I guess if it is in there, and I,
Right, so, could you, or is there reference in this document to this? Could that be something that could be,
You mean the
I-
prohibitions? Is that what you're talking about, Tamara?
I'm
Which one are you
talking about, this is the charter that is in the municipal code, where the penalties lie. This document is for the city, this is a different document, this is not within our charter.
That's the
Right.
that's
This
the
is what
rules
they
of
the
governing body.
rules.
Yes.
Could we
yes.
reference in this document that this is in the charter? So they would know, like in here,
Like
there's
a-
nothing in this table of contents about conduct, is there? Do we see anything?
Or
Well,
ethics.
and that was a point of clarification that I was going to
Yeah.
make. Those rules of procedures are more for how you conduct the
you
meetings.
run the meeting,
and
right?
the committees, as opposed to how you carry out your overall role
Right.
Okay.
as a governing body member.
Not
Um,
necessarily conduct.
We have a code of ethics resolution like some of the other cities have.
Okay.
But as I mentioned in the memo, it's really aspirational because it's really more, a previous council adopted this as the ideal behaviors, but it doesn't have the penalties attached. And part of that is because those penalties are baked into the charter
the charter.
ordinance, the state law obligations that they have related to conflicts of interest and not abusing office. So I mean, I suppose you could add it to those rules of procedure, but I don't know that it really fits with
Yeah,
what that
what that
document focuses
document's
on.
for.
probably more just the
Okay.
Code of Ethics.
Okay. That makes sense. Okay. All righty. Okay, so we've come to an agreement on what language we're gonna use or
recommend.
recommendation, and you're gonna take care of that?
Yes.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. Okay, so, another, issue, Chair Kalp, asked me to bring up is the timing of our final report. And it's a concern that we won't be done by June 11th. What are your thoughts?
Why?
June 11th's our next meeting.
Is the
Right,
10th?
Next Wednesday.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
10th.
Is it the 10th?
11th.
Yeah,
Oh, it is
next
the
Wednesday.
11th? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So our next meeting is June 11th, but it's
Uh-huh.
our last meeting
Uh-huh.
until our presentation on the
Yes.
17th.
Yes.
Right.
I don't know why we wouldn't be.
I know,
done.
because
Okay.
all we're doing is putting,
We've got,
Put it
we've
all
got one.
like this,
together.
gotta put
we've
it
got
in
more-
one,
we've
send
got
it to
one more
Brenda to
report.
edit, and I will get this done, not today, I got someone, but I will get this done, like,
Okay.
this week, and send it, so like,
I think by the end of this meeting, we'll have a pretty good expectation of what our report's gonna look like. We've had ours in for a while. We've got all the information, so next meeting is mostly gonna be, do we like this?
Yep.
And then fine
Do we
tuning
wanna-
yours.
Yeah.
and
Right,
that's
putting
it.
Do we
in.
want to edit? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
That's it.
concerned to be done with this by the end of our next meeting.
I
at
don't see a
all.
problem in it.
Okay, all right.
And I was gonna
'Cause-
say, as you guys are finishing, if you'll send me those Word documents,
She
I'll
can
plug
start
it in.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
because
this-
we've
next
submitted
week.
ours,
Yeah.
and so we're
Yeah,
looking at
Next-
formatting.
If you send them to me
Okay.
ahead of time, I will put it all in the reporting. We'll have it in front of you so you can roll through it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Let's
that-
do
yeah,
that.
Okay.
We
that's-
like
that's-
that.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
okay, because Chair Kalp asked me to bring that up.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess then we need to work on the report. And so I'm responsible for the introduction. And basically, you know, mayor, city council, staff, and attendees. I said we'd like to thank the support of the governing body and the city staff. I think everyone took the time and trouble to present and share their insights with the committee. And then I said, we have heard from a number of individuals and groups, and we thank everyone for their input. And I listed them in order, I think, of first to last attendee. And then the next part of my introduction, after discussion, listening to comments during our meeting, the committee has recommended the governing body to consider action upon the following topics. And that's where I'm struggling. It's the city manager form of government is one report, correct?
Yes.
Elections and city council districts is a second report.
Yep.
Follow-up procedures is a third report. Interlocal cooperation is a fourth report. Is that right?
I believe
The
so.
city auditor is a fifth report. Reviewing and looking at our committee itself is a sixth report. And then last by no means least is our newest addition in, and I said identification of code provisions prohibiting governing body interference with the duties of a city manager. Because that's the issue, is it was sidestepping the manager. And the governing body was going straight to staff that were hired by not the governing body, which the city manager is, and saying stuff. And does that sound like a correct list?
Yes.
Do I need to review, redo, edit in that list? Okay.
Could you read, I was looking at stuff at the same time.
Absolutely.
The last one, the one that Champagne's gonna work on.
That's
what were you
from-
calling that?
I don't kind of like
That's
how
from
it sounds,
Jim's,
but.
I just took Jim's memo
Just the
Oh.
memo topic.
and popped it in there.
Identification.
I can make it
I think-
whatever the committee wants right now.
More.
I think it's less about the city
Ethics.
manager, more about the
Right.
responsibilities of the ethics of the,
Yes.
the governing body,
Yes.
mayor and council.
Go
All
ahead,
right.
go ahead and name it what you want in your report, and
Yeah.
we'll talk about it. next
Okay.
week.
We'll put in
Yeah.
whatever you put in
Okay.
yours.
Yes.
But yes, that, okay, so
To
that,
be- Okay. So, but the first six
yep.
are good?
Makes sense,
Okay.
yes.
And we all have that submitted? Okay, and then, so that's all I have from introduction. I don't know what else to say.
I think that you
Sounds
covered
about it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sincerely, this incident, okay, okay. So I'm trying to make it a lot harder than it really is, I think.
We got it, we
Okay.
good, we're good, we
All
got
right.
it.
Yeah.
All the
So,
reports are done, now, except for mine.
Except for you.
We're good.
We're waiting
so we
for you.
have
That's
the
it.
written suggestions, the written
It's
pieces
gonna be cold
that are all
in the
gonna be
winter.
put together. And then, what about our presentation? Is that,
Yeah,
a
so
common-
I will be working by the next meeting, and now that we have our order.
Our layout,
I can
yeah.
put together a super simple PowerPoint that I can have pulled up for all of us at our next meeting, and I'll get that to Brenda. It's gonna be very simple. It's gonna, will you send your
Highlight.
introduction, or I guess when it goes to you, then it'll go to all of us, but, because I don't want.
Leave a slide.
I don't want to get
Yeah.
weird with the communications internal, but I'll pretty much base it off of the introduction that we kind of give. So listing our members and hitting the highlights, just here are each of the
What we were-
recommendations. It's going to be like 8 slides. So, but then we can fine tune it next week. But I will do that.
okay,
For me.
all right.
I do have one question for the group. You can handle it two ways. The first way, you can have a presentation at the beginning of the meeting. It's a very simple, we suggest like 5 to 7 minutes. The other option is to have it as a discussion item, which is what I would suggest towards, as a non-action item. That gives you the opportunity to have interaction with
To meet
governing
and
body
amend.
members.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
that's-
sure we say for
1000%.
Jim.
Yeah, there'll be no action taken.
Right.
That,
Okay.
it'll be a non-action item, it'll be strictly discussion, but it allows for a back and forth between you and the governing body members, the elected
Yes.
officials.
Okay.
So then at that point, if there's suggestion made that they want to take action on future meetings, then that's what we'll do, so.
Yep.
Okay.
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 All right, so,
So Brenda, there won't be any action on this, whether they approve it or acknowledge
Like
it.
accept it.
So, correct, we can, and I could put it on the agenda as an action item, and we could do like acceptance of, or discussion with possible action. We've done that before too. If the committee's more comfortable with that, I think
Yeah.
that's okay. We could do discussion with
Okay.
possible
I
action.
think I'd
I
like to
think
have
that
some
would be-
finality to
yeah.
it
Okay.
at the end of this.
After all we've talked about, I think it would be nice for them
Yeah.
to at least have to accept our report.
Right, so I know, I think the last time it was just a presentation, they talked about it and that
Yep.
was it, so.
Good enough.
Probably didn't have a pretty PowerPoint last time either.
I don't
10
think
years
I don't
ago, we
think that
didn't
it's-
have-
yes,
No,
lots of
I
pictures.
got my
lots of
name for
pictures.
this. I got my name.
okay, so we talked about the ethics issue. We talked about the report summary of detail. Okay, so, is there any other business that the committee needs to?
I have, oh, you go ahead.
Okay,
I
so,
talk too much.
once we get all this together and we have the report ready,
Mhm.
who's gonna present it? Is that gonna be Jim?
Yeah.
That's gonna be at the
No.
meeting,
Yes.
at the podium,
Yes.
I assume
repeating
that
our-
we'll all be there.
We'll
I mean,
be there.
yes.
I mean, we'll be
like to-
there, but he
but-
I would
presents.
like- yeah.
He's the
Jim would be
pres-
the
yeah.
I
presenter.
just wanna make sure
Yeah.
we have that.
And I would,
If not,
Lined
I
out.
have no, I went on TV for you, so I have no qualms embarrassing
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
Or, you know,
I would say,
Now, y'all know good and
You
well,
might-
I
Jim,
think you'll
Yeah.
be able to-
Jim is gonna,
You'll be okay.
Jim done
I
already
don't think any
said.
of us are too opposed to at least coming up there. I assume that like,
Yeah.
we'll have to talk about our recommendations unless Jim wants to just handle everything.
Yeah.
but
I
Be
think it's
available.
easy.
I would, yeah.
He present from your slide deck, and if there's any detailed questions, then we can be there to answer those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
we can do whatever we
I
want.
agree.
And we can
We can do
finalize that. The next meeting is, we've
Okay.
got the whole presentation ready to go. How do we want to do it? And it might be helpful if Jim's here and he can tell us
What his thoughts
wants to
are.
do.
odds are high.
Right, correct. I mean, he should be the one to speak
That
since he's
he's-
the
Yeah,
He
leader.
said it, and
Right.
that's how
So
it goes,
he's
right,
the
Brenda?
chair.
Yep.
Right,
It's just
Brenda,
today
the
was-
president of the.
The chair.
Whatever, the chair is the
Of
one
the
that
committee.
presented.
She's
Right.
probably
Right.
the one doing it.
I forgot what I had. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, it came back to me. I wanted to be sure because I had this lingering thought in my head after our meeting 2 weeks ago. I presented the first draft of the separate government structure, the council manager form, and trying to fit it with format. I was going back in the minutes and I couldn't find anything. We were fine with that. I've done a couple of revisions and I didn't.
Yes.
I think that I have final drafts, so,
Yes.
which are pretty much exactly what I submitted.
So,
to.
yeah, you're talking about both 1 and 2, or 1 then 2 on our?
Yes, 1 and 2. I just wanted to make sure that we were all good with that, because I
Yes.
went to go work on it over the weekend, and I was like, I don't think I have anything to change this time.
No.
So,
I don't
okay.
think so.
As
I
long
think
as
the
I'm good
form
there,
is
then I
good.
have.
Your format is good.
I'll make sure it
Current
fits
form,
with the
cool.
format we've got. And then-
Elections, how they're conducted, the timing of, we're all cool with all that. The
Yep.
only thing we're suggesting was how the redistricting committee / process is conducted.
Pretty much, yep.
And that's,
And it's already in there, so.
okay.
Great, I just wanted to make sure because I was working on it, and then I realized I don't think I have anything to add, so. Good enough for me.
Okay. So what other business do we have? Because this is clicking along.
That's it.
Champagne, do you need
Pretty
anything on
quickly.
yours, report-wise?
You have
No,
all the info right
I
there.
got it right here.
Okay.
Whip it right
Yeah,
up.
I can whip that.
So
thing
one more
out.
time to be, for the old folks. We heard what we heard.
Yep.
There is procedures, but they're all kind of it's a mishmash kind of thing. And we're suggesting to the governing body to take a look at that and make it a little more crystal clear. Am I right?
I think it was refresh yourselves on the ethics. We understand that there have been issues, but there is already a pretty fair structure. We might recommend every newly appointed or elected
Mm-hmm.
governing body member to sign the code of ethics, just to make sure that they read
Are
it.
aware.
Mhm.
And possibly, I'll leave it up to Champagne, adding to the code of ethics
Mhm.
the potential penalties, even though they're already listed
Mm-hmm.
in the charter.
Well, we
just
can say
having-
enforcement of.
Right. And I was just
Clear
thinking
Enforcement of what's there.
it's not even, it could never be a fully enumerated list. It's gotta have to be in a non-exhaustive list of up to and including, right, legal action,
Right.
censure,
Another, yeah.
or fines.
Okay. So to phrase it a different way, and is that with the committee,
Mhm.
we heard this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We heard this stuff is happening, governing body, and we're not saying you're doing it, but fix it or address it.
Right. Let's
And
make sure
let's do
that
everything
we're
we can
setting
to make
up
it
future
stop.
governing body
Yeah.
members for success here.
And let's not, so the next time this committee meets, we don't want to hear that again.
Right.
I don't know how
Well, that
else
would be
to
the
say
goal of every government
Every-
review
That
committee,
is-
is that they
yeah,
don't come back
yeah.
up, we fix them.
it. Yeah,
But I guess that's up to the
So-
council to do.
yes, the governing, yeah. And now they know that we know.
Right. We're not going anywhere.
Which is
Yeah.
what Jim his whole
Yeah.
thing is to have folks understand that
Transparent.
you
Yeah.
are being watched and there
Yeah.
are steps. Because Jim feels like that they're just rogue, you can do whatever, which actually you can. But anyway, but he wants something that gives teeth to what is there.
Mhm.
To know that you're gonna get in trouble, man. You're gonna get in trouble. And he believes that if the threat is alive, if the threat is there, that will make people do the
People,
right thing.
yeah.
That's what
Yep.
he
Yep.
wants.
Okay. All right, so so any other business for the committee?
Robster, man, what you
We've
got?
got
You
the,
got-
it looks like we've got the
Robster.
beginnings of our committee report here.
Okay.
Yeah, I just realized that I do have one thing to add, and that's the last testimony that we had. I have to add that to my list of people that talked about
Yes.
government. But other than that. so I'll
Mr.
do
Jones
that.
and Mr. Leander, the last two
Yes.
presenters.
I'm just adding to my list of people that talked about council manager form of government. I don't think that Yeah, I'll just add them both, safe and sorry. And then that's pretty much my final one, so I'll get all my stuff over to Brenda and I'll get the PowerPoint done. All I need is to make sure that my PowerPoint matches up to your introduction that you had listed out, and then that'll be that.
I've just got one question. Jones, Mr. Jones, right? Is that Doug Jones? He would be on the auditor's side?
Right, I don't
Yes.
think I
Okay.
need to add him to mine, but
Yeah.
other than that, I've got nothing.
I don't have anything else.
Okay, I love it. See, this is why I'm not concerned about us being done by the end of next week, because
We're done.
we're 45 minutes in and done.
Okay.
Unless anybody thinks we really missed anything.
All right. Well, I just know Jim had some really legitimate concerns about getting
Whether we
it done and timing.
having it prepped.
And dates and everything, and asked me to bring to you, which I did.
Yep.
We did.
I think,
And
yep, I'm
I
confident.
think
Okay.
we got this.
So that's,
The other thing I just want to add is, so next week we should be able to have, well, we will have the
A
agenda
draft,
item
yeah.
cover sheet, right? Because that will actually, the June 17th preliminary agenda will post tomorrow on the city's website.
Okay.
So I will create the council cover sheet for that, so with no attachments. So that'll be done, that piece will be done, and then if you have the presentation done and we have a draft of the report, if you all send those things to me in Word document, we'll get them in there. And then next week, you should be able to roll through the presentation, the cover sheet.
Make
and-
any
The
edits
whole
we
thing,
need to
yeah.
make
Yeah.
and then be ready to go.
Yep.
Yes.
Is
And
it-
then
is
that
it
final
too
agenda item will
obnoxious?
post the very next day on the 12th.
yeah, to literally rehearse what we're going to say next week?
In a way.
Okay.
I think probably the first 15 to 30 minutes of it will just make sure that we go through Champagne's recommendation on ethics
Mhm.
violations,
Mhm.
and then the rest of it will just be making sure that
Laying
we've got all of our
everything
ducks in a
out,
row,
yeah.
yeah.
Make sure that everything makes sense in the report.
Okay.
We're on the right track.
That's it.
I
I
like
mean,
it.
So-
I mean, like, and everybody actually has, like, it's just literally putting it together.
Yes. Copy and paste. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. So we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
All right, so no other business for the committee?
No?
I have none.
Okay, absolutely. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Not this time.
Not this time. Well, thank you very much,
I
everyone.
feel like I should have said it for Jim.
Yeah.
I feel like in his spirit, no.